Have you ever wondered what it truly means to be awake? Not just waking from sleep, but waking to life itself? What if enlightenment is not hidden in distant mountains or sacred texts, but here, in your breath, in your footsteps, in the sound of the wind? For centuries, Zen masters have asked strange questions. What is the sound of one hand clapping? Who were you before your parents were born? Is the flag moving, or is it your mind? At first, these riddles confuse, but what if they are not meant to be solved, only to break open the walls of thought? Tonight, we will step into the silence where words fall away. We will travel from the Buddha's awakening under the Bodhi tree through the mountains of China and the temples of Japan to the mindfulness practices of our modern world. This is not just history, it is an invitation to ask yourself, can you discover the freedom that is already within you? Can you see the extraordinary in the ordinary? Welcome to the story of Zen. The mist of early morning gathers over the mountains, soft and quiet, as if the world itself is holding its breath. In the stillness a bell rings, not loud, not hurried, but steady, like a heartbeat echoing through the stones of an old monastery. Monks move in silence, their robes brushing against the earth as they step into the hall. They do not speak, they do not debate, they simply sit. Their eyes lower, their breath slows, and time seems to lose its grip. Outside, the world rushes forward with noise and desire, but here in this silence, something else unfolds. What is this practice? What is being discovered in stillness, so deep that even words cannot enter? This is Zen, a word so short, so plain, that its depth is easy to overlook. Yet behind this single syllable lies a tradition that has shaped art, philosophy, and lives across continents. But what is Zen? Is it a religion, a philosophy, an art form, or a way of living? Or is it none of these, something that refuses every label, something that can only be lived? To answer, we must listen not to doctrines or arguments, but to the silence that Zen has always pointed toward. The word Zen itself is a traveler, a witness to centuries of cultural exchange. It begins with the Sanskrit word dhyana, meaning meditation, deep contemplation, the act of stilling the mind. In China, this word became Chan, and in Japan, Zen. At every stage, the core remained: meditation, presence, the turning inward of the heart and mind. From its very name, Zen directs us not to a belief system, but to a practice, a way of being. But Zen is not simply meditation in the sense of closing the eyes and breathing. It is not a technique to calm the nerves or escape stress. It is a whole way of being in the world. It has been called the Buddha mind school because its essence is a direct transmission from heart to heart, from mind to mind. Nothing written, nothing spoken, only recognition. There is an old story, one of the most famous in Zen's lineage. The Buddha gathered his disciples and stood before them in silence. He held up a flower. The crowd was confused, waiting for words. No one understood. Only one disciple, Mahakasyapa, smiled. The Buddha saw the smile and said, "I entrust it to Mahakasyapa. I entrust it to Mahakasyapa." In that moment, no sermon was given, yet everything was said. The flower, the silence, the smile. This was the transmission. This story tells us something essential about Zen. Words are useful, but they are not the truth itself. They are signs, fingers pointing toward the moon. If we stare only at the finger, we never see the moon. Zen warns us not to mistake words for reality. The teachings, the scriptures, even the rituals are only guides. The truth cannot be spoken, only lived. Think of it. Have you ever tried to describe the taste of water, or the beauty of a sunset, or the feeling of being deeply moved by music? Words can circle the experience, but they never capture it. Zen rests in the space beyond words, in direct experience. Zen is often described as the artless art, the effortless effort, the way of being fully present. Imagine an archer drawing the bow, not with calculation, not with anxious thought, but with a presence so complete that the arrow releases itself. Imagine a poet writing lines not to impress, but because the words flow naturally, as if carried by the wind. Imagine yourself so deeply absorbed in a moment, listening to rain, watching the ocean, holding someone's hand, that the sense of I and world disappears. This is the taste of Zen. It is not separate from life. It is life experienced without distraction. Can you remember such a moment? A time when everything felt alive, immediate, and whole? Zen tells us that this is not an accident. It is always here, waiting beneath the noise of thought, waiting in the ordinary. Zen masters often warned their students, do not cling to scriptures, do not build prisons of theory. There is an old verse, a special transmission outside the scriptures, no reliance on words and letters, direct pointing to the mind, seeing one's true nature. This is becoming Buddha. These lines are not philosophy, they are instruction. To see your true nature is to look beneath all the roles you play, all the stories you tell yourself, and recognize the luminous awareness already present. You do not need to become someone else. You do not need to search endlessly. You only need to wake up to what has always been there. But if the truth is already here, why is it so hard to see? Why do we live as though cut off, restless, chasing after desires and fears? Zen answers not with explanations, but with practice. Meditation is the doorway. Sitting down, breathing, returning to the moment, these simple acts reveal the truth. Zen is simple, but its simplicity can be frustrating. Students often ask their masters, what is Zen? What is enlightenment? One master replied, when hungry, eat. When tired, sleep. Another said, ordinary mind is the way. Another told a monk, wash your bowl. At first, these answers sound absurd, even dismissive. But consider, how often do we truly eat when we eat? How often do we taste, chew, and experience food without rushing, without distraction? How often do we rest when tired, rather than forcing ourselves to continue or drowning in noise? Zen asks us to return to the ordinary, but to do it completely with awareness. When you eat, just eat. When you walk, just walk. When you breathe, just breathe. In that simplicity lies awakening. This is why Zen cannot be separated from daily life. It is not confined to monasteries or temples. It is in kitchens and gardens, in the sweep of a broom, the sip of tea, the ringing of a telephone. The question is never what you are doing, but how you are doing it. Are you present, or are you lost in thought? Are you alive to the moment or trapped in past and future? What would your life feel like if every act of tying your shoes, washing dishes, speaking to a friend, was done with full presence? Zen says this is enlightenment, not something distant, not a prize to win, but the fullness of this moment. Zen is freedom, but not the freedom of escape. It is not freedom to chase desires or avoid responsibility. It is freedom from clinging, from illusions, from the restless chase of the mind. And it is freedom for compassion, for creativity, for the joy of being alive. Empty also means free, free from, but also free for. Zen stories often reveal this freedom in strange ways. A monk once asked, "What is Buddha?" The master replied, "A dry stick of dung." Another asked, "What is the way?" The master said, "Ordinary mind." Another bowed respectfully, and the master shouted, "These are not puzzles to solve. They are jolts to awaken the mind. They break the cage of concepts, forcing the student to see directly." Think of your own life. How often do you live through secondhand thoughts, through labels, through expectations? What would it mean to drop them all, even for a moment, and meet the world without filters? This is what Zen invites, not answers, but freedom. Zen is not a promise of paradise after death. It does not ask you to wait for salvation in another world. It insists that nirvana is not elsewhere. It is here now. Samsara, the cycle of suffering, and nirvana, the state of liberation, are not two separate realms. They are the same reality seen in different ways. When clinging blinds us, life feels like samsara. When clarity opens, life is nirvana. Zen says, enlightenment is not later. It is in this very breath, in this step, in this sound. Do you hear it? So what is Zen? It is meditation, presence, simplicity. It is words falling away and reality shining through. It is eating, walking, breathing with awareness. It is freedom from illusions and freedom for compassion. It is the smile of Mahakasyapa, the silence of the Buddha, the taste of tea on your tongue, the sound of the wind in the trees. Zen is not something to be sought far away. It is the discovery that what you seek has never left. And this is only the beginning, for the seed planted beneath the Bodhi tree would travel across mountains and seas. It would merge with Taoism in China, blossom in Japan, and one day reach the West. But wherever it went, its heart remained the same, a flower held in silence, a truth beyond words. The morning star still glimmered in the sky as Siddhartha sat beneath the Bodhi tree. His body, thin from years of austerity, was steady. His breath moved like wind across still waters. He had wandered for years, searching, striving, suffering, hoping for a glimpse of truth. He had studied with teachers, fasted until his ribs showed through his skin, pushed himself to the edge of death. Yet peace eluded him. Now, resolved and unmoving, he whispered to himself, "I will not rise until I find the way." As dawn broke, Siddhartha opened his eyes, not the eyes of a prince, not the eyes of a seeker, but the eyes of one who has awakened. He saw the nature of reality as it truly is, everything impermanent, everything interdependent, everything arising and fading away. He saw that suffering is woven into life, yet also that suffering can end when clinging ends. In that moment the man became the Buddha, the awakened one. From this awakening an entire tradition would grow. It spread across India, carried by disciples and monks, codified in sutras, expressed in philosophies. Yet Zen would later say, the true lineage began not in words, but in silence. There is a story told, perhaps legend, perhaps truth, that captures this beginning. The Buddha gathered his disciples. He did not speak. He only held up a flower. The crowd watched. Puzzled, only one man, Mahakasyapa, smiled. The Buddha, seeing the smile, declared, "I possess the true Dharma, the wondrous mind of nirvana, beyond words and letters. I entrust it to Mahakasyapa." What teaching was given in that moment? None and yet everything. No words, no doctrines, only silence, presence, and recognition. This is how Zen tells its own story, as a special transmission outside scriptures, pointing directly to the human mind, allowing one to see their true nature and become awakened. From Mahakasyapa, the flame was said to pass through 28 Indian patriarchs. Among them was Nagarjuna, the philosopher whose deep explorations of emptiness would later echo in Zen. But the seed could not remain in India alone. It was destined to travel. Centuries later, a monk appeared whose legend would shape Zen forever. His name was Bodhidharma. He is remembered as a fierce, wild figure. Some say he crossed seas balancing on a single reed. Some say he meditated, facing a wall for 9 years without moving. Some say he cut off his eyelids to stay awake, and where they fell, the first tea plants grew. Myth or history, what mattered was his teaching. Meditation itself is the way. Not scriptures, not ceremonies, not endless debates. Just sit, be still. Look directly at your mind. Bodhidharma arrived in China, a land where Buddhism had already taken root but was heavy with ritual and philosophy. He brought something raw, stripped down to the essence. His words were few, but their echo would last centuries. A special transmission outside the scriptures. No reliance on words and letters, direct pointing to the mind, seeing one's true nature and becoming Buddha. Imagine a culture filled with elaborate practices, ornate temples, and philosophical disputes. Then imagine a foreign monk who walks in, refuses to write, refuses to preach, and simply says, "Sit down, look at your mind." That was Bodhidharma's revolution. And yet, in China, his teaching did not remain untouched. It encountered Taoism, the ancient way of Lao Tzu and Zhuangzi. Taoism spoke of spontaneity, simplicity, harmony with nature. It distrusted rigid categories, loved paradox, and valued the natural flow called Tao. When Bodhidharma's teaching met Taoism, a new form emerged, Chan. Taoist spontaneity gave Zen its flavor of naturalness. Taoist paradox gave Zen its koans. Taoist simplicity gave Zen its plainness. The Indian practice of meditation and the Chinese spirit of Taoism wove together into something unique. As centuries passed, Chan grew into a forest of monasteries, masters, and students. Some taught through scriptures, but others used shock, humor, or silence. And among them arose one who would shape Zen for all time. Huineng, the sixth patriarch. Huineng was not a scholar, not a nobleman, not even literate. He was a poor woodcutter who, one day in the marketplace, heard someone reciting the Diamond Sutra. In that instant, something within him stirred. He traveled to meet the fifth patriarch, Hongren. In the monastery, he worked in the kitchens, chopping wood. Yet his insight was waiting. One day, Hongren asked his monks to compose verses showing their understanding. The head monk, Xinxue, wrote, "The body is the Bodhi tree, the mind a bright mirror, stand. They polish it diligently, let no dust alight." It was a noble verse, expressing gradual practice, cleansing the mind like polishing a mirror. But Huineng, the illiterate worker, dictated another. "There is no Bodhi tree, nor stand of a bright mirror. Originally, not one thing exists. Where could dust alight?" These words cut through everything. No polishing, no striving, no attainment. Enlightenment was already present, complete from the beginning. Hongren, recognizing his depth, secretly passed the robe and bowl of transmission to Huineng, making him the sixth patriarch. Huineng's teaching was radical. He declared that awakening is sudden, not gradual. You do not climb step by step to enlightenment. You leap. It is not earned after years of polishing, but recognized in an instant. This view clashed with the Northern school, which stressed gradual cultivation. For centuries, Zen would wrestle with this tension. Is awakening sudden, like lightning, or gradual like dawn? Perhaps it is both, a sudden glimpse followed by a lifetime of deepening. Huineng's words were preserved in the Platform Sutra, the only Chinese Buddhist text honored with the title Sutra. In it, he declared, from the outset, enlightenment is already complete. Do not think you lack anything. His teaching opened the gates of Zen to everyone, peasants, scholars, men, women, monks, laypeople. Awakening was not a treasure to be earned by the few, but the birthright of all. After Huineng, Chan masters became known for their unpredictable methods. One monk asked, "What is the way?" The master replied, "Ordinary mind is the way." Another asked, "What is Buddha?" The master said, 3 pounds of flax." A student bowed, and the master shouted. Another spoke, and the master struck. Were these madness, cruelty, nonsense, or were they compassion, a way to shatter the mind's grip on concepts? Think of it. How do you explain the taste of water to someone who has never drunk? How do you explain silence? Sometimes words cannot help. Sometimes only a shout, a blow, or a laugh can break the prison of thought. So from India's silent flower to China's mountains, Zen took root. From the Bodhi tree to Bodhidharma's wall, from Huineng's sudden enlightenment to the paradoxes of Chan masters, the lineage unfolded. It was no longer a seed. It was a growing tree, shaped by silence, nourished by paradox, alive with the conviction that awakening is not far away but present here and now. And yet this was still only the beginning, for Chan was about to expand even further. Masters like Linji would transform it with the practice of koans and fierce methods. Schools would rise, each with their own style. Eventually, Zen would cross the sea again, taking root in Japan, flowering in gardens, poems, and martial arts, before journeying west to touch the modern world. But before we reach those shores, we remain in China, where Zen matured into a forest of teachings. After the passing of Huineng, the forest of Chan began to grow denser, its branches stretching into many directions. Masters appeared whose words and actions were often unpredictable, sometimes shocking, yet always aimed at awakening the slumbering mind of their students. Among them was Linji Ixyun, a teacher remembered for his fierce style. When a student clung to ideas or tried to rely on scripture, Linji would shout or strike, not in anger, but in compassion, to break the chains of thought. His message was clear. Truth is not found in books or teachers, not even in the Buddha himself. If you meet the Buddha on the road, he said, kill the Buddha. It was not destruction he taught, but freedom. Do not cling even to holy figures. Do not hold onto Zen as a possession. Only when all images fall away can reality reveal itself. From Linji's lineage emerged what would be known as the Rinzai school, a tradition built on sharp methods, koans, and the sudden spark of awakening. Other masters preferred gentleness. From the partnership of Dongshan and Kaoshan came the Kaodong school, later to become Soto in Japan. Their teaching was called silent illumination, a meditation without objects, without striving, simply sitting. In this practice, sitting itself was awakening. One does not chase insight or wait for visions. One sits as the mountains sit, as rivers flow, as the sky spreads without effort. Silent illumination would later inspire Dogen, who brought it to Japan as shikantaza, just sitting. The richness of Chan can also be seen in the stories of Joshu. When a monk asked him, "Does a dog have Buddha nature?" Joshu did not lecture or quote scripture. He simply replied, "Mu," a single syllable, meaning no or not. That one sound has been meditated upon for centuries. It cannot be solved by logic, only by diving beyond logic. Koans like these became central to the training of monks. Collected in works like The Gateless Gate, they were never meant as puzzles, but as doors. A door without hinges, a gate without barrier, waiting to be walked through in a moment of direct seeing. From these roots in China, Zen crossed the sea to Japan in the late 12th century. The monk Eisai traveled to China and returned with the Rinzai tradition, emphasizing strict discipline, koan study, and intense training. His Zen was sharp like a blade, demanding, yet transformative. Not long after, another monk named Dogen made his own journey to China. What he found there changed him forever. Dissatisfied with competitive koan practice, he encountered the Kaodong approach of just sitting. When he returned to Japan, he founded the Soto school. For Dogen, practice was not a means to enlightenment, it was enlightenment itself. To sit was to awaken, to breathe was to awaken, to live was to awaken. He poured his insights into the Shobogenzo, a treasury of essays that blend philosophy, poetry, and the direct pointing of Zen. To study the self is to forget the self, he wrote. To forget the self is to be awakened by all things. In Japan, Zen sank deep into the culture. The tea ceremony became more than drinking. It became a meditation of gestures, of silence, of awareness in every movement. Gardens of stone and moss reflected emptiness and form, stillness and flow. Poetry blossomed in haiku, where an entire universe could be captured in 3 short lines. Basho's most famous verse says, "An old pond, a frog jumps in, the sound of water." Simple words, yet they open a vast horizon. This is Zen distilled into syllables. The ordinary moment, seen fully, becomes infinite. Even martial arts were transformed. Swordsmanship and archery became paths of presence, not only combat, but training of mind. To release an arrow with complete awareness was itself a form of Zen. Centuries later, in the 18th century, Zen risked stagnation. Then came Hakuin Ekaku, a dynamic Rinzai master who revived its vigor. He emphasized koan practice with new intensity, taught energy cultivation, and insisted that true awakening must be lived in compassion and daily action. Hakuin gave the world the famous koan, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" a question that still echoes in classrooms and meditation halls across the world. Hakuin's teaching was fierce, but his compassion was equally deep. He reminded students that enlightenment was not an escape from the world, but a return to it, renewed and alive. As centuries turned, Zen crossed oceans once again. In the 20th century, it arrived in the West. America and Europe, weary of dogma and hungry for direct experience, found in Zen something refreshing. Monks like Shunryu Suzuki brought Soto Zen to San Francisco, teaching students the importance of beginner's mind, to meet each moment as if for the first time. In his words, in the beginner's mind there are many possibilities, in the expert's mind there are few. Vietnamese teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, though not strictly Zen by lineage, embodied its spirit in what he called engaged Buddhism. He taught that mindfulness is not only for meditation halls, but for every step, every breath, every meal. To wash dishes is to wash them fully. To walk is to walk with awareness. To breathe is to breathe with life itself. He carried this practice around the world, touching millions. At the same time, writers like Alan Watts introduced Zen to wider audiences with humor, clarity, and a gift for translation between East and West. The beat poets found in Zen a spirit of spontaneity and freedom. Psychologists drew from its insights to develop practices of mindfulness. Artists, musicians, and even business leaders looked to Zen for inspiration in presence and creativity. Zen, once whispered in Chinese mountains and Japanese gardens, now echoed in Western cities, yoga studios, therapy rooms, and coffee shops. It had become global, but its heart remained the same. From India's Bodhi tree to China's monasteries, from Japan's tea gardens to modern meditation centers, Zen has traveled far. Its outer forms shifted, its language changed, but its essence has not. It still points beyond words, beyond doctrines, beyond striving. It still asks each of us, can you see your true nature here and now? Not tomorrow, not after years of effort, but in this very moment, in this very breath. The lineage of Zen is not just a chain of names or places. It is a living river, flowing across centuries, cultures, and minds. And, in the sound of silence, in the act of sitting still, in the simplest actions of daily life, that river still flows today. Zen is often spoken of as if it were a mystery, as if its truths were hidden in riddles or cloaked in paradox. And yet at its heart, Zen is astonishingly simple. It rests on a few core insights that shape everything else: the presence of Buddha nature within all beings, the reality of emptiness, the freedom of no mind, and the refusal to let words and concepts become prisons. These are not abstract theories, not distant philosophies. They are truths to be lived, felt, embodied. Buddha nature is perhaps the most important of all. Zen insists that every being already carries the seed of awakening. You do not need to travel across deserts or climb mountains to find it. You do not need to collect scriptures or master philosophy. What you seek is already within you. The awakened mind of the Buddha is not a gift from the outside, but the very core of who you are. Think of it. When you peel away roles, masks, identities, what remains? Beneath the layers of thought and habit, what shines? Zen calls that your true nature. But if Buddha nature is already here, why do we not see it? Why do our lives feel clouded, restless, and broken? Zen answers, because we are covered in dust, not real dust, but clinging illusions, stories. We chase after things we think will complete us: wealth, status, certainty. We push away what frightens us: pain, loss, death. In this grasping and rejecting, we forget what is always present. Awakening does not create something new, it uncovers what has been hidden. Closely tied to this is the teaching of emptiness. At first, the word can sound frightening, like a void or absence. But emptiness in Zen means something more subtle, that no thing has a fixed, independent essence. Everything arises in relation to everything else. A tree is not just a tree. It depends on soil, water, sunlight, air, countless causes. You yourself are not separate. You are your parents, your food, the air you breathe, the language you speak. When you look deeply, you find nothing that stands alone. And what does this mean? That life is fluid, dynamic, interconnected. Nothing is permanent, nothing is fixed, and in this lack of solidity lies freedom. If things were solid, unchanging, nothing could move, but because everything is empty of fixed essence, everything is possible. A flower blooms, then fades. A child is born, then grows. Grief comes, then passes. Emptiness is not despair, it is possibility. Empty also means free. Have you ever felt trapped in an identity, in a story you tell about yourself? I am this kind of person, I cannot change. Zen replies, you are empty of fixed self. You can change. You are already changing. You are free. From emptiness flows the insight of non-duality. We are used to thinking in pairs, self and other, good and bad, samskara and nirvana. Zen insists these pairs are not truly separate. Samskara, the world of suffering, and nirvana, the world of liberation, are two sides of the same coin. When seen with delusion, life is samskara. When seen with clarity, life is nirvana. But the reality is one and the same. What does this mean for you, here, listening? It means that awakening is not somewhere else. It is not in another world. It is here, now, in this very breath, this very sound. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Zen also speaks of no mind, or wu xin. At first, the phrase may confuse. How can one have no mind? But no mind does not mean emptiness of awareness. It means a mind free of grasping, free of clinging, free of the restless attempt to control. Imagine playing music so deeply that you no longer think of the notes. Imagine running so freely that you no longer calculate each step. Imagine speaking with someone so openly that you forget yourself. That is no mind. The mind is still there, but it is not interfering. It flows naturally, like a river without dams. Have you ever entered that state where effort disappears, yet everything feels effortless? That is what Zen calls no mind. And because Zen emphasizes direct experience, it often warns against over-reliance on words. The true way, the masters say, cannot be written. Scriptures are at best a guide, but they are not the truth itself. Think of the finger pointing at the moon. If you look only at the finger, you never see the moon. In the same way, if you cling to books and theories, you never taste reality itself. Zen is not anti-intellectual, but it insists that thought is not enough. You must see for yourself. This is why Zen stories often seem strange, even shocking. A student asks a question and the master shouts. Another bows and the master strikes. Another asks, "What is Buddha?" and the master replies, "A dried stick of dung." Why? Because the student's mind was stuck in concepts. The shout, the strike, the absurd answer, all were medicine to free the mind. They jolt the student into the present, where truth can be seen directly. Yet Zen is not only about dramatic stories. It is also about gentleness, spontaneity, naturalness. Influenced by Taoism, Zen values wu wei, action without forcing, spontaneity without chaos. This is not laziness, not apathy. It is moving in harmony with reality, like bamboo swaying in the wind. Have you noticed how often, the harder you try, the more you fail? And how sometimes, when you let go, things fall naturally into place. This is the wisdom of wu wei, to act naturally, not by impulse but by alignment. Zen teaches that life itself can be lived in this way, not only sitting on a cushion but walking, eating, working, even sweeping the floor. When you drink tea, just drink tea. When you wash a bowl, just wash the bowl. Joshu once told a monk who asked about Zen, "Go wash your bowl." Such simple words, yet they cut through illusions. Enlightenment is not elsewhere. It is in the act itself, when done with full awareness. Zen also invites gratitude and compassion. Because all beings share Buddha nature, because all are interconnected, how could one not feel compassion? To hurt another is to hurt oneself. To care for another is to care for oneself. The path of the Bodhisattva, vowing to awaken not only for oneself but for all beings, runs deep in Zen. A Bodhisattva, it is said, loves all beings as a mother loves her only child. Have you felt that impulse to help, to comfort, to reach out? Zen says this is not sentiment. It is wisdom, the recognition of our shared nature. Think of the stories Zen leaves us as reminders. A monk asks, "What is the way?" And the master answers, "Ordinary mind is the way." Not special mind, not mystical experiences, ordinary mind, here and now. Another story, two monks watch a flag fluttering in the wind. One says, "The flag is moving." The other says, "The wind is moving." Their teacher, Guineng, replies, "Not the flag, not the wind. The mind is moving." What does this mean? that our perception, our interpretation, is what gives rise to the world we see. Reality is not out there, fixed and independent. It is alive in our own awareness. Over and over, Zen brings us back to this, the present moment, ordinary life, the mind as it is, nothing to escape, nothing to seek far away. How often do we live waiting for something, waiting for success, waiting for happiness, waiting for tomorrow? Zen whispers, stop waiting. What you seek is already here. And yet, Zen does not deny that practice is needed. To see what is already present often requires discipline, patience, and courage. Sitting in silence is not easy. Facing your own mind is not easy. But through practice, the dust settles, and the mirror of awareness shines by itself. Practice is not about adding something new, but about uncovering what has always been there. Zen's core concepts are not meant for debate in classrooms. They are meant to be lived. Buddha nature is discovered in the act of breathing, emptiness in the impermanence of a falling leaf, no mind in the flow of effortless action, non-duality in the recognition that samsara and nirvana are not two. These are not theories, they are doorways. And the invitation is always the same. Step through and see for yourself. Zen is not a philosophy meant only for words. It is a practice, a way of entering life directly. The heart of Zen beats not in theories, but in what one does, how one sits, how one breathes, how one moves through each moment. If one wishes to understand Zen, one must look not only at its teachings but at its practices, for they are the living body of the tradition. At the center of these practices stands Zazen, seated meditation. It is deceptively simple. Sit upright, cross the legs, or rest them comfortably, place the hands together, lower the eyes, breathe naturally. And yet within this simplicity lies the whole universe. In Zazen, body, breath, and mind are not separate, they are one. There is no goal to achieve, no special vision to seek. One simply sits, breathing, present, awake. In the Soto school, this is called shikantaza, just sitting, just breathing, just being. Can you imagine the courage it takes to stop searching, to stop striving, and simply sit with what is? How often in life do we allow ourselves to be without agenda, without desire, without distraction? Zazen is that rare and radical act. In the Rinzai school, another practice developed alongside Zazen, the contemplation of koans. A koan is not a riddle to be solved, but a spark meant to ignite awakening. What is the sound of one hand clapping? What was your face before your parents were born? Such questions cannot be answered by logic. They exhaust the rational mind until something deeper breaks open. A monk may sit with a single koan for months, years, even a lifetime, until suddenly the boundaries of thought collapse and a glimpse of true nature appears. Can you feel the tension in such a practice? The frustration, the longing, and then the sudden release into clarity? This is the lightning flash of Kensho, seeing one's true nature. Alongside Zazen and koan study, Zen emphasizes mindfulness of breathing. Breathing is not forced but natural, flowing through the nose, the tongue lightly touching the palate, the attention settling in the hara, the center of the body below the navel. Each breath is an anchor, each exhale a letting go. The body breathes, the mind follows, and awareness expands to fill the whole space of being. In this, one realizes the unity of life and breath, the inseparability of self and world. There is also the practice of silent illumination, prominent in the Caodong lineage. In this form, meditation is not focused on any object, not even the breath. One sits, open to all phenomena, aware of everything and nothing at once, like the sky containing every cloud yet bound to none. It is a return to the vast luminous mind that has never been absent. What happens when you stop trying to focus on one thing and instead open fully to everything? The mind rests, the world shines, and the boundary between inner and outer dissolves. But Zen does not end on the cushion. Its practices extend into the very fabric of daily life. Work itself is practice. This is called samu, the meditation of everyday tasks. To sweep the floor, to chop vegetables, to fetch water, to cut wood, all of these are Zen when done with awareness. There is no division between sacred and ordinary. The sacred is found in the ordinary. When you lift a spoon, when you wash a bowl, when you brush your teeth, can you do it with complete attention as if nothing else in the universe mattered? Zen insists this is possible, and in fact this is the essence of awakening. Chanting, too, has its place. In monasteries, monks chant sutras and verses not as magic spells, but as reminders, as acts of gratitude. The words are carried on breath, voices rising and falling together, embodying community and devotion. Rituals are performed not for show, but as mindfulness in action. Even the act of eating is framed as practice. Before meals, practitioners reflect with gratitude on the causes that brought the food, on the labor of countless beings, on the suffering of those without. In this way, each bite becomes an act of awareness and compassion. The arts themselves became vehicles of Zen. In brush and ink, in calligraphy and painting, Zen masters expressed the immediacy of the moment. A single stroke of the brush, uncorrected, alive with spontaneity, reveals the state of the mind that made it. Poetry, especially haiku, distilled reality into brief flashes. An old pond, a frog jumps in, the sound of water. Tea became meditation, each gesture precise, each movement deliberate. Martial arts became disciplines of awareness, where the strike of a sword or the release of an arrow was not violence but the embodiment of presence. Have you ever seen such arts and felt their stillness, their intensity? This is Zen in motion. At the heart of these practices lies the path of the Bodhisattva. Zen, as a Mahayana tradition, emphasizes the vow to awaken not only for oneself, but for all beings. The 6 paramitas, generosity, ethics, patience, energy, meditation, and wisdom, are cultivated endlessly. A bodhisattva is said to love all beings as a parent loves their child, seeing no separation between self and other. Imagine living with such compassion, where the suffering of another is felt as your own, where every action is guided by the wish to liberate all. This is the ideal of the bodhisattva in Zen. Zen practice is not about escaping the world. It is about entering it more fully, seeing it more clearly, and responding with wisdom and compassion. To sit is practice, yes, but to walk, to work, to eat, to care, all are practice. Enlightenment is not found in some hidden realm, but in the dust of daily life. Joshu's simple instruction, wash your bowl, captures it perfectly. Can you see awakening in the act of washing dishes, in the sound of sweeping, in the taste of tea? If you can, then you understand Zen practice. Zen asks us to live as if every action matters, because it does. To be present, because this moment is all we ever have. To be compassionate, because we are not separate. To sit, to breathe, to move with awareness, because life itself is the path. There is nowhere else to go, nothing else to attain. This is it. Enlightenment has always been the question at the heart of Zen. What does it mean to awaken? Is it a sudden lightning flash breaking through the clouds of ignorance in an instant? Or is it a slow unfolding, like dawn spreading its light across the horizon? Within Zen, these two visions of awakening, sudden and gradual, have shaped centuries of teaching, debate, and practice. Some masters speak of sudden enlightenment. They say awakening is not something you build, not something you construct step by step, but something that is already here, waiting to be seen. It comes like a thunderclap, unexpected, total, irreversible. One moment the student is caught in confusion, the next the veil is gone. Huining, the illiterate woodcutter who became the 6th patriarch, spoke with this voice. His verse declared that the mirror of the mind does not need to be polished because there is no dust and no mirror at all. Enlightenment is present from the start. Can you imagine what it would mean to realize in an instant that what you have been seeking is already complete, already whole? Others emphasize gradual enlightenment. They say the mind is like a field to be cultivated, a garden to be tended. Weeds of illusion must be pulled. Seeds of awareness must be watered. Awakening unfolds over time through discipline and persistence. The Sodo tradition carries this spirit. In shikantaza, just sitting, there is no rush, no expectation. Sitting itself is enlightenment, and in sitting, day after day, clarity grows naturally, like a tree maturing in its season. Have you felt how deep change in life often comes not in flashes, but in small steps that slowly transform you? This is the gradual path. At times, the two visions clashed. In the history of Chan, the northern school argued for gradual cultivation, while Huning's southern school declared sudden awakening, which is true. The tension between them has never fully disappeared. And yet many teachers suggest that the division is not absolute. Awakening may come suddenly, but living it, embodying it, takes a lifetime. The initial insight may strike like lightning, but its light must still spread like dawn. Sudden enlightenment, gradual cultivation. The two are not opposed, but intertwined. Consider the practice of koans in Rinzai Zen. A student may wrestle with a single phrase for months, even years. Each attempt to solve it fails, each effort crumbles, frustration builds, the rational mind exhausts itself, and then, one day, without warning, the barrier collapses, the student breaks through. The moment is sudden, yet the years of preparation made it possible. Was the awakening sudden or gradual? Perhaps both. Without the struggle, the breakthrough would not come. Without the breakthrough, the struggle would be endless. Soto practice, too, carries a hidden suddenness. The act of just sitting is said to be enlightenment itself. There is no before and after, no distance to travel. Each moment of sitting is complete, and yet over time, the habit of seeing the world differently takes root. Each day of sitting deepens the ability to live with awareness, to embody the freedom glimpsed in Zazen. The awakening is here, yet it matures endlessly. Zen often uses metaphors to express this paradox. One says, a mirror covered in dust. For the gradual path, you polish the mirror daily, removing dust bit by bit until it shines. For the sudden path, you realize there is no mirror and no dust at all. Another metaphor is of the moon and clouds. Gradual practice clears the clouds, little by little. Sudden awakening is the wind that blows them away at once, revealing the moon that was always shining. Which image speaks more to you, the slow clearing or the sudden gust? Stories of masters show both sides. A monk asks Joshu, "What is Zen?" Joshu replies, "The oak tree in the garden." Simple words, yet for the monk it may strike suddenly, like a bell. In another story, a student meditates faithfully for years, enduring hardship and discipline, until one day insight quietly blooms. These stories remind us, the path is as varied as those who walk it. Some are shaken awake by thunder, others awaken gently as if from a long sleep. The debate over sudden versus gradual is more than history. It is a mirror for our own lives. Do we expect transformation to come in a single moment? Do we trust in slow effort, in patience, in daily discipline? Zen suggests that both have their place. There is value in flashes of clarity, moments when the world seems to open. There is also value in the long work of embodying that insight, of letting it seep into every act. Have you noticed in your own life how sometimes change comes suddenly, in a moment of realization, and other times slowly, almost invisibly, until you look back and see how far you've come? Awakening in Zen is not about choosing one side or the other. It is about recognizing that enlightenment is both immediate and endless. It is here now, already present, and yet it deepens forever. One teacher put it this way: sudden enlightenment, gradual cultivation. The awakening shows you the truth. The cultivation teaches you how to live it. Zen insists that enlightenment is not a rare treasure reserved for saints. It is the nature of all beings. Sudden or gradual, it is not about becoming someone else, but about seeing who you truly are. Have you ever wondered if perhaps nothing is missing? That the freedom you seek is not ahead of you, but already within you? Zen whispers that this is so. The path is not to reach something new, but to uncover what has always been. Whether through a lightning flash or the slow brightening of dawn, awakening in Zen is always the same realization, that this life, this moment, is the very place of nirvana. There is nowhere else to go, nothing else to attain, only this. Clear, immediate, free. The path of Zen has always been walked in relationship. Even though Zen emphasizes direct seeing, even though it warns against clinging to words or masters, it also knows that no one can travel this way alone. Teacher and community, master and disciple, sangha and individual, these relationships form the living fabric of Zen. To speak of Zen without them is to forget the soil in which the practice grows. The role of the teacher is unlike that of a lecturer or philosopher. A Zen teacher is not there to provide answers, but to reveal the student's own capacity to see. Sometimes the teacher guides gently, like a parent leading a child by the hand. Sometimes the teacher provokes, shouts, or strikes, like a storm that shakes the ground. Why such extremes? Because the student's mind clings to habits, to concepts, to illusion. The teacher's task is to break those chains, to open the gate that was never truly closed. Have you ever been told a simple phrase that suddenly changed everything for you? A phrase so ordinary, yet it pierced through confusion? This is what a teacher can do. Point the way when we cannot see. In Zen, the connection between teacher and student is sealed in what is called Dharma transmission. This is not about titles or authority, not about institutions or rank. It is about one awakened mind recognizing another. The teacher confirms the student's insight, passing on the lineage that stretches back to the Buddha himself. Mind to mind, heart to heart, the transmission is said to continue across centuries. Imagine the weight and the freedom of such a chain. A flower lifted in silence in India, carried through China, Japan, and now to the world. Each link bound, not by words, but by recognition. And yet, teachers are not perfect beings on pedestals. They too are human with strengths and flaws. The danger of clinging to the teacher as an idol is one Zen has always warned against. Linji's fierce cry echoes here, "If you meet the Buddha, kill the Buddha." The teacher's role is to point beyond themselves, to the student's own nature. The true master disappears the moment the student awakens, like a finger forgotten once the moon is seen. Alongside the teacher stands the sangha, the community of practitioners. In Zen, practice is rarely done alone. Monasteries are built not only for silence, but for shared silence. The rhythm of bells, the sound of feet on temple stones, the rustle of robes, all create a shared energy, a field of awareness that supports each person's practice. Have you ever tried to sit quietly on your own and found your mind restless, and then sat with others and felt a sudden strength, as if their presence held you steady? This is the power of sangha. The daily life of a Zen community is itself a practice. The morning begins before dawn, the bell sounds, and monks file into the hall for meditation. Later there is chanting, not as performance but as offering, breath joining breath. Meals are eaten in silence, each bite taken with mindfulness and gratitude. Work fills the day, sweeping, cleaning, gardening, cooking, not as chores, but as meditation in action. Each movement, each task is an expression of awareness. Community life strips away distraction, teaching discipline through rhythm, teaching humility through shared labor. The sangha also serves as mirror. Alone, one might deceive oneself, thinking progress is greater than it is, or clinging to subtle pride. In community, pride is softened, illusions are exposed. Others remind us of our blind spots, challenge us, encourage us, and sometimes frustrate us. Yet in those frustrations, practice deepens. Zen says enlightenment is not only about silence on a cushion, it is about how we live with others. How do we respond when annoyed, when praised, when blamed, when ignored? The sangha provides the ground where these lessons play out. At times, the teacher's methods within the sangha may seem harsh. Stories abound of masters shouting, striking, or offering riddles instead of comfort. Why such severity? Because in Zen, kindness is not always gentle. A sharp blow may awaken where soft words fail. A sudden shout may cut through years of sleep. To outsiders, these methods may look cruel, but to the student, they can be gifts. Think of a friend who told you a hard truth, not what you wanted to hear, but what you needed to hear. So this is the spirit of the Zen teacher. Yet kindness is there too, woven into the discipline. Teachers who sat long hours with students, guiding them through koans. Communities who cared for the sick and the weak, who lived simply, sharing what they had. Compassion is not separate from Zen, it is its very foundation. Without compassion, practice would be cold, empty. with compassion, even silence is warm. In modern times, the role of teacher and sangha has expanded. Zen is now practiced in cities, in centers where lay people gather after work, in homes where small groups sit together. Teachers adapt, but the core remains: presence, transmission, community. Sangha is no longer only monks in remote monasteries. It is also ordinary people who meet weekly, who support each other in practice, who bring mindfulness into families and workplaces. What does all this mean for us? It means that awakening is not a solitary achievement. Even though Zen emphasizes seeing one's own nature, it reminds us that this seeing is nurtured by relationship. Teacher and student, community and individual, all walk together. The journey of Zen is not about escaping others, but about realizing one's connection to them. Have you felt that subtle strength that comes when you practice or work alongside others? Have you seen how guidance from someone wiser can change the course of your path? Zen says these are not accidents, they are essential. The teacher awakens, the community sustains, and together they remind us that practice is never about me alone, but about all of us, awakening together. In the end, the role of teacher and sangha is not to give you something you lack. It is to show you what has always been within, to sit beside you in silence, to point when you cannot see, to walk with you until you realize there is nowhere to go. The flower the Buddha once held is still being passed, hand to hand, mind to mind, in every teacher and every community that carries Zen into the present. Zen is never meant to stay on the cushion alone. Its true test is not found in meditation halls, but in kitchens, in streets, in conversations, in the ordinary fabric of life. If Zen is only practiced in silence, it is incomplete. The heart of Zen is to carry awareness into every action, to make each moment an expression of awakening. This is why Zen often appears so simple, so ordinary, and yet it is precisely in the ordinary that its depth is revealed. Mindfulness is the foundation, to be fully present in whatever one is doing, without distraction, without rushing ahead, without clinging to what is already past. When walking, just walk. When eating, just eat. When working, just work. This seems so obvious, and yet how rarely do we live this way? Have you ever noticed how often you eat while thinking of something else, or walk while lost in thought, or listen while already preparing your reply? Zen asks, what would it be like to stop, to be truly present with what you are doing right now? In that presence, even the simplest act shines with clarity. From mindfulness flows simplicity. Zen has always valued a life of happy sobriety, not the pursuit of endless possessions, not the intoxication of constant distraction, but the joy of living simply. A single bowl, a plain robe, a cup of tea, a garden stone. These can be enough when seen with awareness. Zen gardens, with their raked gravel and sparse stones, are not empty but full of meaning, teaching that beauty comes from simplicity, that less can reveal more. What if life's richness does not lie in adding more, but in seeing more deeply what is already there? Gratitude is another expression of Zen in daily life. Monks pause before meals to reflect on the causes that brought the food, the labor of farmers, the rain and sun, the countless beings who made the meal possible. They remember also those who do not eat that day. In this way, eating becomes not just consumption, but connection, an act of awareness and compassion. Can you feel how different a meal tastes when eaten with gratitude rather than with hurry? Zen suggests that gratitude itself is a form of awakening, a recognition of interdependence. Compassion, too, flows naturally from Zen. If all beings share Buddha nature, if all are connected, how can one turn away from the suffering of others? A bodhisattva is one who vows to remain in the world, working for the liberation of all, never resting until every being is free. In daily life, this means acts of kindness, patience, and generosity. It means listening deeply, speaking truthfully, caring for the vulnerable. Have you noticed how a single kind act, small as it may seem, can transform not only the other person's day but your own? Zen teaches that compassion is not separate from wisdom. They are two wings of the same bird. Zen also hands down simple teachings in the form of parables and sayings. Empty your cup. a master tells a scholar who comes full of knowledge. Unless we let go of what we think we know, there is no room for new understanding. How often do we cling to certainty, to ideas, to the belief that we already see clearly? Zen reminds us, empty your cup, begin again, approach each moment as if for the first time. This is beginner's mind, fresh, open, alive with possibility. Another saying, is that so? A master responds with these words whenever accused, praised, or judged. He does not argue, defend, or grasp. He simply says, is that so? In these three words lies the essence of non-attachment, the refusal to be bound by praise or blame, success or failure. What would it be like to live this way, not tossed about by the opinions of others, but steady, free, unshaken? Zen suggests this is possible when we rest in awareness. Wash your bowl, Joshu told a monk, a phrase that has echoed for centuries. Simple, direct, ordinary, and yet within it lies the teaching that awakening is not elsewhere, not in mystical experiences, but in the act of caring for what is in front of you. Wash the bowl. Pay attention. Do what is needed, fully and completely. Life itself becomes practice. Huineng's words also carry into daily life. When monks debated whether it was the flag or the wind that moved, he said, not the flag, not the wind, the mind is moving. This reminds us that the world we see is shaped by the mind that sees it. Perception, interpretation, story, all arise from within us. To understand this is to take responsibility, to recognize that freedom begins not in changing the world, but in changing the way we see. Zen does not ask for withdrawal from life, but for deeper engagement. Walking can be meditation, working can be meditation, speaking, listening, cooking, cleaning. Each is a field of awareness. The question is not whether you have time for practice, but whether you bring practice to the time you already have. Imagine living this way, where each moment, no matter how small, is an opportunity to wake up. This spirit extends beyond monasteries into every culture Zen has touched. In Japan, the tea ceremony transformed the act of drinking into a ritual of awareness and respect. Every movement, from folding a cloth to pouring water, became precise, deliberate, alive. Haiku poetry distilled awareness into 3 lines, capturing entire worlds in the sound of a frog or the sight of a falling leaf. In art and calligraphy, a single brushstroke revealed the state of mind of the artist. These were not hobbies but practices, ways of embodying Zen in action. In modern times, Zen's everyday application has spread far beyond monasteries and temples. People practice mindfulness in workplaces, in schools, in families, breathing before a meeting, pausing before replying in anger, walking with awareness in a crowded city. These, too, are Zen when done with full presence. The form may change, but the essence is the same. Do you notice how even small moments of awareness can transform the day? How a single mindful breath can bring calm in the midst of chaos? Zen says these moments are not small at all. They are the heart of the path. Ultimately, Zen's practical teaching is this: enlightenment is not separate from life. It is not hidden in scriptures, not waiting in distant heavens, not found only in mountain monasteries. It is here, in the ordinary acts of living. The taste of tea, the sound of rain, the touch of a hand, the rhythm of breath, all are invitations to wake up. Zen asks us to live simply, gratefully, compassionately, mindfully, to see the extraordinary in the ordinary, to stop searching for another place or another time, and to realize this is it, this moment, just as it is the doorway. Can you step through? Zen is a path that began with silence, and it ends with silence. A flower lifted without words, a smile exchanged between teacher and disciple, a bowl washed after a simple meal. From India to China, from Japan to the West, Zen has traveled across cultures, across centuries, and yet its heart has never changed. It always points back to what is most immediate, most simple, most alive, this moment. What do we discover when we look closely at this tradition? We see that Zen is not an abstract philosophy, not a set of beliefs to memorize or dogmas to defend. It is a way of being. Its teachings on Buddha Nitra remind us that awakening is not somewhere far away, not something we need to earn. but the very core of who we already are. Its teachings on emptiness and non-duality reveal that nothing stands alone, that everything is connected, that samsara and nirvana are not two separate realms, but different ways of seeing the same reality. Its teachings on no mind invite us to live with freedom, spontaneity, and clarity, allowing life to flow through us without clinging. We see also that Zen is a path of practice. Zazen, the simple act of sitting, is the center of it all. Just sitting, just breathing, just being. Koans break open the walls of thought, leading to sudden glimpses of truth. Silent illumination dissolves boundaries, revealing the vast mind that holds all. Everyday tasks, sweeping, cooking, walking, working, become opportunities for awareness. Life itself becomes the field of awakening. The debates of sudden versus gradual enlightenment remind us that awakening is both immediate and endless. It can strike in an instant, like lightning, and it can unfold slowly, like dawn. The flash of insight and the steady cultivation are not opposites, but companions, each completing the other. Enlightenment is not about escaping life, but about entering it more fully, living it more deeply, embodying it with compassion. And throughout it all, the teacher and the community stand as companions. A teacher shouts, strikes, or simply smiles, pointing the student back to their own true nature. A sangha sits, eats, and works together, generating the shared energy that sustains practice. Alone, the mind falters. Together, the path opens. The flower held by the Buddha is still being passed today, from mind to mind, heart to heart, in every genuine transmission of the Dharma. What, then, does Zen mean for us here and now? It means we do not need to search elsewhere. The sacred is not hidden in distant temples. It is here, in the breath you are taking, in the sound around you, in the body that sits as you listen. The invitation of Zen is to stop, to open, to see, to live simply, gratefully, compassionately, to discover that what you seek is already present. Can you feel it even now? The stillness beneath the noise, the clarity beneath the thoughts, the presence that has never left. Zen whispers that enlightenment is not another world, not another time. It is this world, this time, this very moment. Samsara is nirvana. The ordinary is the extraordinary. The cup in your hand, the step you take, the breath that moves through you, all of it is the way. Zen does not promise answers. It does not offer doctrines to cling to or heavens to escape into. It asks only that you see, to sit, to breathe, to live with awareness, to smile at the flower held before you, to wash your bowl with care, to listen to the wind and realize that it is your own mind moving. And so the journey of Zen comes back to where it began, not in scriptures, not in words, but in silence. A silence alive with presence, a silence that is not emptiness but fullness, a silence that holds the whole world. The question Zen leaves us with is simple, and it is yours alone to answer. Can you awaken, here and now, to the life that is already complete?